Welcome to the Dyslexia is Our Superpower podcast with Gibby Booth Jasper, where we hear from fellow dyslexians looking at the positives dyslexia has to offer and the many ways to succeed as a person with dyslexia.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Gibby Booth Jasper, and today I am talking with Trevor Smith, who is a performance improvement specialist, owner of Blue Sky Consulting, and also a certified laughter leader. Welcome, Trevor.
Hello, thank you. It's great to be on with you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. Let's start with, I would love to know what a certified laughter leader is. Can you talk to me about that?
Sure, I'm glad to. So basically I'll just give you a quick overview of what I do.
That would be great.
My background was in recreation therapy. I was a recreation therapist for a number of years for a local human service agency. And in my work I was doing, I was trying to find different therapies and activities to enhance the quality of life of my clients who I was working with at the time. And I was doing some research and was trying to find things that would be interesting and engaging. And I came across this organization called the World Laughter Tour. And it sounded really interesting. So I did a little more research and called the gentleman up who ran this group. And I said, what do you do? I said, you train people to be comedians, do stand-up or sketch comedy? And no, it's a kind of a unique program that we do around health and wellness and using laughter to improve people's health. And then he said to me, well, we're doing a training in a few months. You feel free to come to our next training. And I did. So I went through a 2-day training and I learned all the things about laughter and humor and how to run these programs called laughter clubs. So after 2 days, I became a certified laughter leader in running these programs called laughter clubs or therapeutic laughter programs. So that's kind of the long version of what a certified laughter leader does.
I love it. And are these situations for people in the workplace? Are these, like, what kind of situations are you using it in?
It can be used anywhere. I've done work with, companies. I work with, all kind of, after school programs, with senior centers, with after school programs, church groups, support groups. So that's what's great about this. The work I do is I can work with different types of groups, populations.
So it's a huge range, adults, kids, everybody? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so how does that sort of tie into the other work that you do? Is the laughter leadership and the laughter clubs, is that a big piece of it? And then there's other stuff as well that goes into it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what I do is I customize it really to the needs of the group I'm working with at the time. So it could be something around stress management. I might do a laughter thing around that, or something around team building. So use laughter around that as well, or I do stuff around performance-based training, which includes also stuff around like improv and role playing and getting people to really get connected in doing various kind of modalities, different performance-based modalities.
Mm-hmm. And is it that the laughter sort of breaks the ice, makes people more comfortable, or is it that links it to something positive? How does it work?
Yeah, it really does. I think it's a great way to kind of get people to break the ice and kind of let their hair down, so to speak, and to feel less self-conscious about who they are, when they connect with people through laughter. Yeah. So it's using all those things and how laughter really helps us in so many different ways, not just in the workplace, but in everyday life, and how we communicate with people and how we build relationships.
That sounds really wonderful and really fun.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm curious how your dyslexia relates to all this. Can you talk to me specifically about, for you, how does your dyslexia show up? The challenges it brings, the strengths it brings?
I would say one of the challenges I think that I've in my experience of having dyslexia is I've been fortunate to be a very creative person and able to kind of really kind of think outside the box a lot of ways. So I think that kind of fits into well the work I'm doing around laughter and then the kind of creative part of the work I do. And yeah, I think that really fits in really nicely. And, I'm able to I'm very good with, always, I'm kind of a people person, generally speaking. I always like to be around people and work with people and see people grow as people. And that gives me the opportunity to do that in doing this work. And I would say some of that, the challenges, I've never, I had trouble like organizing my thoughts, being organized and kind of, I have things in my mind I know I want to say, but it doesn't come out right, or those kind of things. So I think that's always been a challenge, trying to kind of articulate what I want to say. I know I'm going to say it, but it doesn't come out the way I want it to come out.
And is that something that you sort of find challenging when you're leading the groups, or can you kind of wing it and it sort of all works out?
Sometimes it's a challenge, really getting out the words, articulate and the process the information that the group needs to know. That's always going to be a challenge. I know that. Kind of
sure.
working around that.
And what about like math or reading and writing or telling your lefts from your rights? Is that stuff that's been challenging for you too?
Oh yeah, I'm always terrible at math. Always, always been a challenge as far as, doing math. So that was, especially in school, that was always really hard for me. But, you have to get through it somehow. Yeah.
I totally can relate. How was your childhood? Was, apart from math being tricky, was it as a whole fairly challenging? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think, I was very fortunate because I went to a private school when I grew up that really was a special school for kids with dyslexia, with learning disabilities. So I was very fortunate to be in that environment to learn and have really good support and teachers and people who supported me through my challenges around learning. But it was still a struggle, obviously. It was really hard. It really was. And getting through high school was really hard. And it's going from there and going on to other things I did in life. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you're fine.
But, all this, I think all those challenges really helped me later in life too. And how difficult it was. So many different ways.
Talk to me more about that.
I just remember, when I was, especially when I was in graduate school, some of the things I learned in high school about how to study and how to never give up. I think it was a big part of who I was, is, I think. So, no matter what, no matter how hard it is, you just never give up. I really don't. And there were some really challenging times in graduate school where the courses were really hard, and it was really hard for me to get through that course or wherever it may have been. And I just had that perseverance. It's just never giving up, even though I wanted to. many times,
Yep, I can definitely relate to that as well. I think I really like to highlight this because that's a very common dyslexic trait that a lot of people mention. And I think it's really important because I think it can be so easy, either as a parent or as someone struggling yourself, to kind of look and be like, this sucks. Like I'm having to work so hard. But looking at it from a different angle and being like, hey, this is a really awesome life skill. You are learning that if you work your absolute tail off, it does pay off. Right. So I think that's a really important angle to look at it of. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
And also there's another point too. I remember about 5 years ago or so, I was involved in a business networking group. And part of the responsibility of being a member of this group, you had to do these sales pitches at each meeting. So you had to get up there and do like a 1-minute sales pitch. I remember how hard it was because I remember practicing a couple hours, the night before, just to articulate and make sure I sounded okay and not trip over words. And that was hard. That was hard to do that. And it was every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I got better eventually, but I just remember how hard it was, and just kind of, because usually, I had to work so much harder than the average person to do that.
Absolutely.
It was really, really hard because, the words didn't always come out right. That's for sure. Yeah.
I can so relate. There's so many times where I completely said the wrong thing, and when I was younger, it was mortifying, and now I find it quite funny. I was giving a lecture to a bunch of educators, and the second sentence in, I said the word teriyaki instead of territory.
I've done that.
and it was so great because it was such a great teaching moment. Like I was able to kind of stop and be like, so this is exactly like, it's dyslexia is not all about flipping letters. Like this is a perfect example. And I didn't stage this, kind of wish I had, but, so I can I completely relate to that as well.
Right.
Talk to me as far as, so you went to, was it the Carroll School? What school did you go to?
No, I went to, I grew up in the Philadelphia area.
Okay.
I went to a school called, it's still in existence. It's called Hilltop Preparatory School in Rosemont, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Great. And how did you end up there? Was it spotted by a teacher or your parents early on?
It was my parents, and I think they, it was, back then there weren't many schools like that. Back in the, early mid 80s. So there weren't a lot of schools like that that were available. So it was pretty easy to find. And I went to a school similar to that previously, that only went up to 8th grade. So I had to figure a way, I had to go into high school. So we had to find a high school placement for me at that point.
And did you guys move, or was it a boarding school?
No, it was a day school. It was all I commuted from home.
Yeah.
It was all local there, somewhat. Yeah.
And what about as far as, so your dyslexia, your parents picked up on that, or was that?
Yeah, at a very early age. I think it was like maybe 5 or 6. That's when I was diagnosed with with a learning disability and dyslexia.
And are they dyslexic themselves? I mean, that's pretty young. That's awesome for them to pick up on it so early.
Yeah, no, they were very shrewd about that. Very, very educated people, so they kind of picked up on that pretty quickly. Yeah, I think my father had a little dyslexia. When I look back at it, and my brother had dyslexia too.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what about, was it something looked at as a positive back then, particularly when you went to the school for dyslexia, or was it kind of spun in that way, or not yet?
As far as the other students, you mean?
Yeah, as far as dyslexia being a positive, like was it looked at as this sort of positive thing? Or
I would say so. I would say so. Yeah, I mean, they were very, the school was very supportive, and they had the high expectations as well. They really did. They really made you work. And I remember it was kind of an unusual kind of curriculum there, because there was 2 programs they had. They had the academic program, and they also had a clinical program. So you had to do both. So twice, you would do your academics during the day, and that you also had this clinical component where you would have group therapy twice a week with your other students there, your classmates, which was challenging. That was the really challenging part. As I look back at it, it really was. But I think as I look back at it, I think it really helped me in a lot of ways. It really did.
That's so interesting. I hadn't even thought that would have been part of the curriculum. Was that something as kids? Is that something you guys kind of were like, oh, this part sucks, or was it something?
Yeah, definitely.
I did wonder.
Yeah, we really dread that. I mean, it's just, it was like twice a week, and you're in there with, your peers, your other classmates, and talk about your feelings and your issues. And that's the last thing you want to do when you're a teenager.
Yes.
Talk about your issues and your feelings.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason I asked as far as, was dyslexia kind of spun as a positive because often people, sort of struggle with it so much through school. And then it's later in life that they kind of turn around, I myself in this category, and we're like, hey, actually, this is kind of a cool thing instead of this terrible thing that I thought it was.
Right.
But do you sort of find that you just kind of saw it as a positive kind of throughout and that it never was sort of seen as a negative?
I'm sorry, you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. No, you're fine. So I'm curious, oftentimes people have this sort of reversal where they've sort of struggled with their dyslexia for so long, and so it's been seen as a negative because it's like, hey, this has completely made life so difficult for me. And then later in life they can sort of turn around, and so we'll say, hang on a minute, like actually there is some positives, and this has been really good for me. And sort of as we talked about earlier of like, look, hey, even though I had to really struggle, I persevered, and that's a really great life skill. So I'm curious for you, was it something that you kind of always looked at as a positive because that's how it was spun from an early age? And so you never sort of had a change, it was always sort of positive throughout? Or were there some parts where it was kind of seen as a negative?
I would say it was more of a positive, I think.
Great.
Yeah, I would say that for sure. I think, as you know, being dyslexic, it gives you certain perspective in life, for sure. And I think for me, I just think that having the label dyslexia, I think that can be a positive because you think differently than the average person. And I think you bring special gifts to the world. I really do. I think that's really important to have that kind of attitude around having dyslexia, and just using it as a positive for sure, and be able to do the work I do and do it well, even though I have this diagnosis, and it's not a death sentence. I just look at it as being unique. I really do, being kind of a unique person.
I love that. I think it's so important to look at it from that angle, and I completely agree with you. Yeah. I'm curious as far as, sort of the career that you kind of first went into as far as the therapist. How did that happen? Was it did someone suggest it? Were you kind of drawn to it for some reason?
Yeah. My father was a social worker. Both my parents were in the human services field.
Okay.
Yeah, they were both in human services. And I remember my father, especially my father, I would go to do some of his business meetings and go to work with him every so often. And I kind of see what he did for a living and see what difference he made in people's lives and an impact he made on other people. And I said, that's something that's really important to do. And that kind of got the itch for sure to do that kind of work. So I guess that's one of the reasons I got into it.
Yeah. And then in college and then graduate school, did you have accommodations? Was that particularly challenging? Talk to me about how it was to get through that.
Yeah, I went to when I went to college, I went to Curry College in Milton, Mass. And they had a special program. It was called the PAL program. And that, was there specifically for kids with learning disabilities. So it was beyond just the traditional one-person disability office. It's more, they had full comprehensive services there, and for providing support and services and help in your academics. Yeah. So and then when I went to graduate school, I went to Leslie College, Leslie University now. And that was good too. I had a good experience with that as well. Yeah. Yeah. So all the places I had was very positive.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And were these did you hand pick them in particular for the, the help that you got with the dyslexia, or was it sort of a bit of a luck that played?
Yeah, well, no. I think it was more, I think Curry definitely, because it was known for that. The PAL program was internationally known as a great program for kids with learning disabilities, or students with learning disabilities. And I also went to Springfield College as well after that. But no, I didn't really pick them because of their support services particularly. It didn't stand out for that, but they were just good programs.
Got it. Okay, yeah. Wonderful.
Right.
And so I'm curious, as far as did starting your own business, did that all come fairly easily? Is it really great being your own boss? As far as the entrepreneur side, many dyslexics are entrepreneurs, so I'm kind of curious about that.
Right. I never thought I would go into being my own boss or having my own business. It just kind of fell in my lap, so to speak. So it was I'm kind of still learning, obviously, and still making mistakes. But to answer your question, I think that, I don't know. I think for my kind of personality and my learning style, I think what I do is a really good fit. I worked for a number of years for a couple of human service agencies. And toward my end of that time, I was just getting bored. It wasn't challenging anymore. And actually, in the work I was doing around the laughter stuff, which I did at the time in my work in the field, that kind of developed into a full-time business, which I didn't really thought it would. So it was kind of a weird kind of dynamic there, how it kind of all panned out, and how I worked, how I started my business, and kind of moved on from there.
And does it involve a lot of traveling? Are you kind of going all over the place, or do you stay more local to where you're based?
It's pretty regional, I would say. I mean, as far as I go is Boston.
And you're based where exactly? You're Connecticut, got it. Yeah,
right, as well. And I'm based in Springfield. Yeah, so
relatively close to me.
Well, yeah, right. So definitely, I would say it's regional. Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit more? I'm curious about sort of the situations, if you will. Give me a little bit more. So, is it working with, conflict, like in the workplace, or is it more just sort of like trying to make things sort of work smoother, or is it kind of all of the above?
I think it's all the above. I think what I really do in the work I do is really get people to connect with each other in a really positive way. Think of those really positive, healthy work connections. And I think that's really kind of the real theme to what I do. I do a lot of stuff around stress management and communication skills and team building, and that's great too. That's important stuff. But really get people to really connect with each other in a really positive way and creating that really positive environment.
And are these sort of like short kind of sessions, or are these like a day or 2 day workshops? How does it work?
Again, it's really customized. So I've done, a half day. I've done, 2 hours. I've done a whole day. I have never done 2 days. I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
But again, it's really customized to what they're looking for. The group.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that's probably a strength of your dyslexia too, to being able to kind of fit and mold and kind of create whatever the group needs, and adjust it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a real challenge.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So if somebody's listening to this and they say, wow, this would be really great for my office or my church group or my whatever, how would they get in contact with you?
Yeah, you just go to my website at blueskyconsulting.us.
Okay.
Or you can email me at tsmith@blueskyconsulting.us.
Perfect.
Or call
I'll
me.
put those links below too.
Or even call me at 413-204-8308.
Perfect. I'll put all that below too.
Okay, great.
Because I don't know about you, but when I used to, not so much anymore, but when I was like younger and I'd hear something on the radio and I'd try and copy it down and I'd only get like a third of it.
No, I know.
They were saying it so fast.
I know.
So I will totally put that below.
Okay.
Because I totally remember getting frustrated and only getting half of the phone number.
Exactly.
So yes. Well, Trevor, I'm curious. I always ask this question because I really like to hear people's huge variety in responses. But I'm wondering what your advice is for the two main groups of people who listen to this show. So the first group, and you can answer this in whichever order you like, but first group is the dyslexic, either young adult, teenager, sort of struggling with his dyslexia and trying to kind of make sense of it all. And then on the other hand is the parents. Maybe they're dyslexic themselves, maybe they're not, and they're watching their dyslexic kid struggle and have all these challenges. What would your advice be for those two groups?
Well, I think one of them is there's a lot of resources out there for parents now than there used to be. And I just think also you have to be very diligent. Parents have to be very diligent as far as their kids' education and finding those resources and finding the people that being strong advocates for their kids. I think that's really important. And also there's, especially here in Massachusetts, there's an organization called the Massachusetts chapter of the International Dyslexia Association, which I could send you.
I'll put the link below as well.
Sure, right, and that's a great resource for parents who have kids with dyslexia looking for resources and support. And they have an annual conference every year as well, and it's a wonderful organization, it really is. So I've been involved with that over the last year or so. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just having being very diligent for parents. I'm talking about around their kids' education, because a lot of these school systems, you have to get after them. In a lot of cases, you really do. You have to really be a strong advocate. So yeah, I mean, and never give up. I think you never give up on your child's education. That's for sure. And there are good people out there, and professionals out there who do amazing work. That'll be great resources, for sure.
Absolutely. And then what about for the teenager or the young adult with dyslexia?
Again, I think, having dyslexia, it's compared to when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, it's a whole different thing now. Whereas, again, there's so many more resources, there are all kinds of different programs out there. There's a lot more support. It's better known. It's more accepted among the general population. So I would just say never give up, and just kind of keep at it, and just find this. You have a lot of people. They all have a lot of strengths. You have a lot as a teenager with dyslexia. You have a lot of strengths and a lot of things you offer, and really focus on that. Focus on your strengths, not so much on your challenges, but things that you bring that are unique and special.
Absolutely. Well, that's wonderful advice. Thank you very much, Trevor. I really appreciate you talking with me today.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Dyslexia is Our Superpower podcast, and we'd love to hear from you with comments and questions, so please feel free to get in touch. You can email us at dyslexiaisoursuperpower@gmail.com. That's dyslexiaisoursuperpower, all one word, @gmail.com. And don't forget to spread the word by sharing us on social media.